There is a moment in the Sumerian tablets where the tone changes completely. For thousands of lines across hundreds of tablets, the Anunnaki are described one way: commanding, absolute. The kind of power that creates planets from collisions, decides who lives and who drowns, speaks and civilizations rise. They are not uncertain. They are not afraid. They don't ask questions. And then, in one specific text, the most powerful god in the Babylonian pantheon says something to another god that stops everything cold. He says his power has deteriorated, not temporarily, not from a battle. His divine capacity, the thing that makes him what he is, has simply degraded. And worse, he tells the other god that he doesn't know how to restore it, that attempting to restore it would cause more destruction than living with the loss. The most powerful being in the Sumerian cosmos is describing his own slow extinction to a lesser god, quietly, without drama, as if he has already accepted it. That text was copied more obsessively than any other in Babylonian history. More than the creation story, more than Gilgamesh, more than the flood tablets. At least 36 confirmed copies from 5 different ancient cities. And the Babylonians didn't just store it in temple libraries, they inscribed sections of it onto amulets and wore it against their skin. For centuries. Why does a civilization wear a god's confession as armor? Because what that text describes isn't just one god's decline, it's a pattern. And by the time the Babylonians were copying it obsessively, they understood what the pattern ended with. The Anunnaki were already gone. And the last thing they left in writing, carved into the ending of that most copied text, was a statement about us, about humans, about what happens after gods die and the species they created keeps walking. The text is called the Erra Epic. The god at its center is Marduk, the supreme deity of Babylon, the most important figure in the Mesopotamian pantheon. He is credited in the Enuma Elish with organizing the solar system itself after the collision that created Earth. The Erra Epic opens with a different god named Erra, the god of plague and violent destruction, lying dormant. His weapons, 7 personified beings called the Sibitti, have been still for a long time, too long. They are growing restless. They want to move again. They want Erra to lead them the way he once did, when cities burned and the righteous and wicked died alike without distinction. The poem describes the Sibitti in specific terms: champions without peer. Each one is assigned a different form of destruction: flood, fire, famine, disease, sword. They are not abstract forces. They have personalities, impatience. They feel time passing, and they want to move. The text treats them as beings that exist independently of Erra's will, weapons so powerful they have developed their own desire to be used. That detail is worth sitting with. The Anunnaki's weapons could grow restless on their own. His advisor Isham keeps trying to quiet them, keep Erra sleeping, maintain the peace. But before the violence begins, there is a scene that most scholars move past quickly because it doesn't fit neatly into any academic category. Erra goes to Marduk. And Marduk, the supreme god of Babylon, the being who organized the cosmos, makes a confession. His divine garments have deteriorated. In Mesopotamian religious language, divine garments are not clothing. They are the physical substance of a god's power, the cosmic force that makes divine beings fundamentally different from mortal ones. The Sumerians had a specific word for it: melammu, divine radiance, not metaphor. The melammu was described as physically visible, a luminous aura that emanated from gods and kings. Humans who came into direct contact with it fell to the ground involuntarily. It was the physical signal that something with absolute authority was present. When a god's melammu was intact, their presence was overwhelming. When it deteriorated, you could see it happening. Marduk tells Erra that his garments have degraded and that he cannot restore them without triggering a catastrophe worse than the deterioration itself. Trapped by his own diminishment, unable to act without causing catastrophe. But here is the detail the text includes that nobody in this niche has discussed. Marduk explains why his divine garments can't be restored. It's not a metaphysical problem, it's a labor problem. The craftsmen who maintained the divine garments, specialized human workers who operated within the Esagila temple in Babylon, had been scattered. Without those specific human craftsmen performing specific human labor, the physical substance of Marduk's divine power could not be renewed. The most powerful god in the cosmos required human maintenance workers to keep his power functional, and when those workers were gone, his power degraded and couldn't come back. The god's power needed humans to sustain it. When the humans stopped, the power stopped. The most powerful god in the Babylonian world is describing paralysis. This is not mythology functioning as metaphor. Read it as what it is: a document recording a belief, held by the civilization that produced it, that the divine powers governing the world were no longer functioning as they once had. That something fundamental had changed, that the gods were not what they used to be, and the Babylonians found this document so important they wore it on their bodies. The Erra Epic doesn't appear from nowhere. There is a sequence that leads to it. In the Atrahasis Epic, one of the oldest Sumerian texts in the British Museum, the Anunnaki hold 3 separate assemblies to vote on eliminating humanity, 3 times before the flood. Plague, drought, then the flood itself. Each time, the same god voted against it, Enki. Each time, Enki found a way to circumvent the decision and warn one human family. The reason for all 3 attempts is consistent across every version of the text. Not moral failure, not sin, population. The noise of human civilization had grown beyond what the Anunnaki could tolerate. After the flood, Enki negotiates a compromise. Biological limits are built into humans: shorter lifespan, disease, infant mortality. The assembly accepts it, and then, gradually, the texture of the tablets changes. The gods stop walking among humans. They move into oracles and dreams. The direct interventions thin out across centuries and then stop completely. Where earlier tablets describe gods giving face-to-face commands and physically deploying weapons, the later ones describe signs, omens, prophecies. Distance. Then silence. By the time the Erra Epic is written in the 8th century BCE, it isn't describing something about to happen. It is explaining something that has already happened. The weapons went quiet. The divine garments deteriorated. The age of direct divine presence in the world ended. The Erra Epic is the last document that tried to explain why. The last attempt to articulate what the withdrawal actually looked like from the inside. Here is something worth knowing about those 36 copies. They don't all come from the same empire or the same century. They span roughly 400 years, and at least 3 separate political powers, the Assyrian Empire, the Neo-Babylonian Empire, and successor states that were often at war with each other. Empires that destroyed each other's cities still reproduce this text. Political enemies, different rulers, different state religions, all of them kept copying it. A text that crossed every border its civilization had, because what it described was understood as true regardless of who was in power. Erra wakes. The 7 go to war. Cities fall. The righteous and wicked die indiscriminately. Then Erra withdraws again. And the poem ends. But not before it says the thing no one expected to find in an ancient religious text. Ancient religious texts do not end with humans. They end with gods, with divine promises, divine warnings, divine authority reasserted. The god speaks, the humans listen, the divine order is restored. That is the template across every ancient tradition. The human characters receive divine instruction and carry it forward. The Erra Epic ends differently. After Erra withdraws, after the weapons fall silent, the epilogue makes its statements. Those who honor Erra will be spared. Standard closing language for a religious text. And then it steps outside any template. It says, the great gods are returning to their resting places. That the age of their active presence in the world is over. and that after they are gone, not if, after, the humans will remain. Not guided, not judged, not taken somewhere, just remaining. As a fact, as the natural outcome of what the poem just described. The Anunnaki left one sentence in their most copied text describing the world after they're gone. Humans, still here. The author of the Erra Epic, a man named Marduk, states in the closing lines that the god Erra revealed this text to him in a dream. He is the only ancient author to claim divine dictation for a poem that ends with the gods withdrawing permanently. A god told him to write down the story of divine power, failing. And the god told him how the story ends. With us still standing. Feel that for a second. Feel the weight of a powerful being, watching his own power decline, making sure the record of that decline survived, making sure someone found it, and making sure the last line of that record said, "The humans will remain." They made sure we'd read this. They made sure we'd know. We are 2,700 years past the Erra Epic. Further, if you count from the Atrahasis. In that time, there has been no verified instance of the things the early Sumerian tablets describe. No divine assemblies voting on human extinction. No weapons deployed from the sky. No gods walking among humans and speaking to them face to face. The silence the Erra Epic predicted has held for millennia. Now layer the physical evidence on top. In 2010, geneticists confirmed the existence of a human species nobody knew had lived alongside our ancestors. The Denisovans, identified from a fragment of a finger bone in a Siberian cave, larger than us. Physically distinct, present across Asia for hundreds of thousands of years. They interbred with our ancestors. Their DNA is in your body right now. A Denisovan jaw found on the Tibetan Plateau was dated to 160,000 years ago. That means they were present on this planet for at least 160,000 years. Modern human civilization is roughly 5,000 years old. The Denisovans had 32 times that duration on Earth before they disappeared. They are gone. We are here. Whatever the Anunnaki were, and the physical and genetic evidence has been examined in previous videos on this channel. The biological reality is that a species distinct from modern humans, larger than us, and genetically documented to have coexisted with our ancestors, disappeared. The tablets describe the Anunnaki withdrawing as their power failed. The fossil record describes a distinct hominin species going extinct in the same broad window. Both records end the same way. The humans remain. The Erra Epic didn't describe the future when it was written. It described what was already happening. And it ended with the only statement that has proven verifiable across the centuries that followed. Humans outlasted them. Not because we defeated them, not because we were stronger. The Atrahasis says explicitly that we were built to serve, shortened, limited, designed to be useful enough to keep, but not powerful enough to challenge. And yet here we are, 8 billion of us, long after the beings who designed those limits are gone. The Anunnaki made something that outlasted them, and the last thing they left in writing was a confirmation that they knew that's how it would go. Erra Epic. 36 confirmed copies, 5 ancient cities. Sections of it worn on the bodies of Babylonians for centuries. Marduk admitting to Erra that his divine power had deteriorated and he did not know how to restore it. The final lines. The gods returning to their resting places. The humans remaining. This text is in the British Museum. The amulets are in London, Berlin, Istanbul. The gods it describes are gone. The weapons it describes went quiet. The civilization it was written for collapsed thousands of years ago. The humans it ends with are still here. The Anunnaki described their own extinction in the most reproduced text they ever inspired, and they ended it with a single quiet statement about what outlasts them. Us.